right, good morning, everybody. My name is Paige Spratt with Schwabe, Williamson & Wyatt, and I'm the current president of the Clark County Bar Association. Thank you for joining us today for another update. For today's meeting, please turn off your video and mute yourself. Turning off your video will allow for a better connection. Also, just as a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and will be available on the CCBA website later this week. As a reminder, it's time to renew your CCBA membership. Please log on to the CCBA website to renew your membership today. We have some really great distance social events planned for the fall, as well as some great CLE content. We're also going to start limiting these court updates to members only. So again, please renew today if you haven't. For today's presentation, we will first hear from Judge Fairgrieve, who will give updates from Superior Court, and then Judge Osler will discuss updates from District Court. We will be taking questions using the chat feature in Zoom. All chat messages will be received by our presenting judges. If there are any other CLEs or training that you're interested in receiving from the CCBA, please email me or Lisa Darko. And I just wanted to say thank you to Judge Fairgrieve and Judge Osler for taking the time today to provide these updates from our courts. And thank you for all attending. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Judge Fairgrieve.
All right, good morning, everyone. Let's see, I put together a little PowerPoint to kind of support what I wanted to talk about here this morning. Let's see if that's ready to go. Okay, can you go to the second slide, Lisa? So while Lisa's working on that, I can just tell you what I wanted to talk about today. So a number of issues, not as many issues as in the past, but I wanted to talk a little bit about courthouse operations, kind of give you an idea of what's going on down here if you haven't been in the courthouse for a while, and certainly answer any questions you have about that. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about jury trial status, you know, where we are in terms of jury trials and what's been going on and what our recent experience this week was. Then I wanted to talk about Superior Court operations a little bit, criminal and civil. Wanted to talk a bit about remote hearing decorum and relate some of my experiences recently. And then give you an idea of what, you know, kind of where we're going for the future at this point. So, assuming that Lisa's having some problems, or they're having some problems with a PowerPoint, I've got an outline here, so I can just go ahead with that. All right, as far as you know, courthouse operations are concerned, you know, I'd have to say that in terms of what's going on here in the courthouse, there've been incremental kind of improvements to what's going on as far as you know, safety here in the courthouse. A couple of things, changes that are going on here in the near-term future. Next week, September 1st, they're going to start engaging in temperature scanning at the entrance. So they've got a couple devices I think they're going to be using for that, but everybody who comes in is going to be scanned. They've got a particular temperature. I want to say it's 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. If a person's over that, they're not going to be allowed entrance into the courthouse. They'll be given a little card that gives them some guidance in terms of, you know, where to call depending on what the nature of their case is, but they won't be allowed in. If they're within the temperature range or below that, then they're going to be allowed in. If you haven't been in the courthouse recently, you know, masks are required. It's being enforced. They're not allowing people in. Also, social distancing is required. I'll just mention to you, I came in this morning about maybe 8:45, and I didn't run into a single person, and I walked up the main stairs up to the 4th floor. So, you know, the courthouse is still pretty emptied out. Occasionally, depending on certain dockets, for instance, out of custody readiness dockets, we see some folks in the courthouse and in the courtrooms, but by and large, the courthouse is empty. So if you haven't been down here recently, there just aren't many people in a courthouse. And that's, frankly, that's the way we'd like to keep it. You know, I think it promotes social distancing and is safer for everyone. They're setting up hand sanitizer stations in front of the courtrooms. All that equipment is sitting, I think, on 4th floor. And I just got an email this morning that indicates that based on some requests, they're ordering some new dividers for the council table basically a big plastic divider that divides, the two sides of the table. So, it's not uncommon for people who are actually here in a courthouse to be brought forward to the table. I'm looking at mine right now. There's probably about 6 feet distance between the two chairs, and you can certainly, get that if you push the two chairs to the opposite side of council table. But we're getting some plexiglass screens to divide those two areas. So I think that's going to be good. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, as far as jury trial status is concerned, I think most of you are aware that, the Supreme Court told us we could start hearing jury trials again on July 6th. So we, as I may have mentioned in a couple previous, updates, Superior Court kind of scrambled to put together the capability to do jury trials, in a social distance environment. So we entered into a contract with the county to use the fairgrounds complex there for that, principally for jury selection. And so we've had the ability to do that since July 6th. Now, there's some references there, orders that came out on June 18th. The Supreme Court gave us some guidance in terms of what to do and how to do it. So we tried to follow that guidance. And if we can go to the next slide, please. However, since, between July 6th and August 24th, frankly, no trials got called ready. And there are a number of reasons for that. I hear the continuances on a weekly basis, so do the other judges, or the motions for continuance. And the most common one is just a concern, I think, on a part of the parties that their parties or clients may not be able to get a fair trial in this COVID-19 environment. I think the court's been at least somewhat sympathetic to those arguments. Although I would tell you that, with the passage of time and with the fact that the exclusionary period on criminal cases expires on September 1st, there's probably going to be, less, I guess, agreement with those types of arguments. But, we'll have to see, listen to each individual argument and make a decision then. There's also been kind of a routine or common argument on part of parties, moving for continuances that based on the sort of problems or barriers they face based on the COVID-19 pandemic, they haven't been able to finish their discovery and trial preparation. And certainly, I think we're sympathetic to that. I think the judges know that that the COVID-19 pandemic has made trial preparation difficult in terms of witness interviews and that sort of thing. So, so I think we've been sympathetic to that. But I think, as everybody's aware, we face, that sort of an issue, and then an issue, of course, with, concerns about defendants' right to speedy trial and frankly, the state's desire or need to try to get certain types of cases, and certainly in the criminal realm, to trial on a relatively timely basis. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, all that being said, we thought we had our first jury trial that was going to go out this past Monday on August 24th. It was a criminal case. My understanding, it wasn't my case, it was Judge Gregerson's case. He indicated it was a relatively straightforward case from his sort of perspective. We actually did call a jury in. I talked to Ms. Gurley, our administrator, this morning. She indicated that 51 jurors were called, about 40 appeared. One actually appeared late, came in about an hour late. But that's an average number for us, I think, in terms of both the numbers called and the percentage of individuals who arrived. Also, my understanding is that jury response is consistent with the response of other counties that are in our current situation, meaning that they're trying to do jury trials at this point, from what Ms. Gurley tells me. I understand informally that the prospective jurors indicated that they were interested in serving and wanted to serve, at least the ones that Ms. Gurley and other court personnel talked to. However, unfortunately, the case was continued. It's my understanding in talking to Judge Gregerson that over the last weekend prior to the trial, in terms of its preparation, I think the state determined that they had some problems with some evidence that they perhaps hadn't disclosed or came upon and hadn't had an opportunity to disclose to defense counsel. So I ended up moving for continuance on Monday morning, and we granted that continuance. I think the good news about that is that it did give us an opportunity to run through our procedure in terms of receiving jurors and the process for out at the courthouse, or the fairgrounds rather, for doing voir dire. So all that seemed to run pretty smoothly, is my understanding. I wasn't actually out there. I was down doing the first appearance docket, but my understanding is that was all successful. I think they may have also brought some of the jurors back and kind of run through our procedures here in the courthouse that we plan on using Ms. Gurley indicates to me that that was successful as well. So, you know, some positive feedback there, but, you know, I'm not sure what we're looking at for next week. Readiness is tomorrow, and I won't know until after readiness if we're going to have any trials. Next slide, please. All right, as far as our criminal operations are concerned, as I mentioned in my prior discussions with everybody, we're kind of in a ramp-up situation, and we've been there for a while. We're pretty close to what we've historically done in terms of the nature of the dockets and number of dockets. I'm not going to go through them. You can take a look at them there in the PowerPoint, but we're pretty much up to what we were doing before in many regards. The main thing I would just mention to you generally is that our volume is increasing, and we expected that it would increase. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic kind of slowed down a lot of the process, I think from the investigation process right on through charging and right into, you know, cases appearing in court. We're seeing a change in that pretty much on a weekly basis. I think all the indicators are that numbers are beginning to come back now, both in terms of, you know, arrests in the field, charges by the prosecutor, and matters we're having, you know, appear on the change of plea docket. So, you know, certainly our volume is beginning to come back a bit. Next slide, please. I wanted to talk a little bit about remote hearings decorum. So, as I indicate here, I'd say the Superior Court judges, and certainly with the District Court judges, we've probably done now thousands, literally thousands of Zoom-based hearings. And a couple things I just wanted to mention based on my personal observations and on information that's been relayed to me by the other judges is, please dress like you're going to court. And I say that to the attorneys. Many of you are fine. You know, the vast majority of you are dressing just like you would in court, and I appreciate that. And one thing to remember is this is a court proceeding. I know that, you know, the nature of Zoom or remote proceedings is less informal, I think, by their very nature. But I think we all need to remember that it is an official proceeding. It's being recorded, and we all need to, you know, to conduct ourselves and wear the sort of clothing that we would normally wear. I will say that it's been relayed to me that at least one attorney has appeared in a T-shirt. I will tell you that in one hearing I had, an attorney appearing was revealed to be getting up off a couch. By his phone or by his camera. So, you know, just something to avoid, please. If you're going to be doing a hearing for your home, please try to establish a quiet, professional sort of area to do it. Please consider using a background. There are a lot of these automatic backgrounds that you can set up in your Zoom so that you've got whatever it happens to be. Mr. Bales is good enough to put up photographs from the Yucatan in Mexico for me, and so that's fine. But you know, there are a number of reasons perhaps to certainly if you're at your home and that sort of thing, you might want to consider, you know, putting up a backdrop there. Please test your audio. The vast majority of audio seems to be pretty good now. We seem to have, you know, gone past that problem, but there's some computers, maybe it's based on the size of the microphone or that sort of thing, that we have some problems on. So please test that before hearings, and you might want to consider buying a little better microphone if you're having microphone problems. There's some, you know, much better microphones that are plugins that are relatively inexpensive, and it probably improve your audio quality significantly. If you're having problems with background noise, you might want to consider getting a headset and a microphone. That seems to work really well. I've seen a couple of attorneys wear those in certain hearings, and they're very clear, and they don't have any problems hearing what's going on. And sometimes you just can't predict what's going to happen. I mean, you might be at your home and a hearing might occur, and then a jackhammer starts going off outside in the street, and you didn't know it was going to happen. So, but that could really negatively impact the hearing. So please keep that in mind. Next slide, please. All right, so something that you might consider is talking to your clients before a hearing. So I would suggest that before a hearing, you definitely have a conversation with your client about the nature of the hearing and what their sort of obligations are, and that this is not like a Zoom hearing they might, or Zoom contact they might be having with their friends, or a Zoom cocktail hour or something of that nature. They should be dressed in proper clothing, and that doesn't mean what they're wearing to the beach that day or something similar, which I've seen. Please have them mute their phones until their case is called. Especially if they've got a phone and maybe they're on some sort of a computer. There's a reverb situation that can occur in that situation, which can absolutely overpower everybody's audio, and it can just stop the hearing until we get it worked out. So if they can mute, that'd be fine. Remind them they need to be in a quiet location without distractions. So if they can't do that, they probably are going to have to come into court. If they don't have a place that's relatively quiet so that we can conduct the hearing, they may need to come into court, and then we'll engage in social distancing and go from there. Please remind them that they're in a court hearing and that while they're on video, everybody can see them. So I will describe two events that occurred recently with me. One is I had the opportunity to watch a criminal defendant basically get up, it looked like, get dressed, have something to eat, get in her car, drive to a local marina, I assume it was local, I'm not sure, and then get into a sailboat by the time that we had our hearing. So that's fairly distracting. If you're on a bench and you're focusing on other things and there's all sorts of movement on a number of other screens. So if you could just remind the defendants not to do that. And on another case, I watched an individual drive quite a distance in his car while he was waiting for his hearing to occur. In fact, he began talking while he was driving during a hearing. So please tell them that they cannot do that. No driving and participating in the hearing by their cell phone. I think it's certainly dangerous for them. All right, as far as future operations for us, so I wanted to say to everybody that, first of all, thank you to everybody for your flexibility and your hard work and adjusting your process and procedure to do these things. And frankly, adopting a lot of new procedures that we've had to engage in to be able to do hearings in this remote environment. Where I think I could describe it in terms of moving from what might be termed crisis operations to more of a sustained operations model at this point. So we put together quickly a number of processes and procedures just to be able to do what we needed to do. But candidly, our planning assumption right now is that social distancing is probably going to continue for at least 6 months to a year and maybe beyond that. So we're beginning a process now with that as our planning assumption. And additionally, the recognition that the volume of our criminal cases is increasing. Many of the hearings that we do, although we can do them remotely, take significantly longer in a remote environment, often up to twice as long. As an example, it used to take us about 15 minutes or so to do a routine felony change of plea and sentencing. It now takes an average of half an hour or longer. So that is having quite a bit of an impact on this. Next slide, please. So over the next couple of months, I've been meeting with a group called the Criminal Policy and Procedure Committee. That's a mix of prosecutors, defense representatives, members of the clerk's office, and some court personnel. I meet with them on a regular basis. I'll probably be meeting with them almost on a weekly basis now to review pretty much all the processes that we're using to conduct criminal hearings and criminal dockets. And our goal is to step back and look at what we're doing right now and to try to determine how we can do it better. And better means more efficiently, still complying with the court rules and constitutional, guidelines. Just how can we do this more efficiently? Because the problem is it's taking us much, much longer to do the same types of hearings we did in the past, and we really have the same resources that we always have. And so that's going to create some problems for us. The committee is going to make recommendations for changes to the bench, and then the bench will decide, Superior Court bench will decide which ones they want to implement, and then we'll go from there. And the committee's also has already been really helpful, made some great recommendations. We've implemented those recommendations and has really improved our operations. And just in general, as far as that's concerned, Sean Downs is the defense representative on that committee. If you have recommendations, you can certainly send them to me. But if you want to send them to Mr. Downs, that'd be helpful. He brings up recommendations on a weekly basis during those meetings. Next slide, please. All right, quickly on civil operations. Motions docket, probate, and guardianship docket, they're all running, at this point. They're smaller than they have been historically. And again, I think that's part of the problem with us, just, matters taking longer. A lot of uncontested guardianship and probate matters are being handled ex parte at this point. So certainly, if you're in that sort of situation, you should certainly contact the judge who's assigned. And many of these matters, I think, can be done now ex parte. Planning is taking place now for resumption of the UD or unlawful detainer docket. As you're probably aware, Governor Inslee's moratorium ends on October 15th. Judge Gregerson's our lead for this particular area. He indicates he's been meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis with a group of stakeholders. They're having some discussions right now concerning alternative resolution programs and diversion type programs for unlawful detainer and eviction situations. So, I think as we get closer to October 15th rather, we'll have some better, information on that, but I know they're working in that direction. Family law dockets and trials are taking place, mostly remote is what I understand, but then there's some mix of remote and persons appearing in court, and certainly we're using social distancing for the latter. Next slide. Okay, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you have additional questions, you can certainly send them to my judicial assistant, Ms. Wade. She'll pass them on to me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Once again, thanks. I know many attorneys, I of course see you on a daily basis and change of plea dockets, morning dockets, that sort of thing. And I know this is a difficult time for all of you. It's a difficult time for court staff, but I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and effort in this sort of problematic time for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And we're having a little bit of a Zoom issue, so I'm not sure if anyone has, right now I don't have any questions for you, but if you guys want to direct your questions directly to me, if you do have any, that would be really helpful. Thank you, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Judge Osler.
Thank you, and I always love following Judge Fairgrieve and his PowerPoints because it helps me to organize my own thoughts, and there's a lot of things that I echo, and I appreciate him putting in that format for you guys. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit in the order that he went in, just to touch base on what's going on in district court regarding some of those issues as well. We also have the hand sanitizers that have now been set up in our courtrooms. And of course, you know that there's masks and social distancing. All of our courtrooms are measured out with social distancing. We have ordered for each courtroom plexiglass to be placed around the judge and the JA stations. And yesterday we had Judge Parcher put on kind of a mock trial because we have our trials also starting up on September 1st. And in fact, I guess I'm the lucky one that has the first trial that may be going out for everybody at this point. G2 is already set up, and if you get a chance, you're always free to go and walk in and see what they've done there. But it looked really nice. They have the plexiglass up around the bench, around the JA, and also around the witness stand, because G2 is the only courtroom that we have in district court that is big enough or large enough for us to social distance jurors and the parties and participants and have a jury trial. So we're prepping for that. We're doing what we can to make sure that we have all the safety precautions in place before next Tuesday when that first trial goes out. I'm sure this is going to be a learning process for all of us, because I'm just thinking in my head there's so many things that we just do remote or automatically that we're going to have to stop and think about, and it's going to take a while. For instance, as I mentioned, the jury stand has the witness stand has plexiglass around it, so we're going to sanitize that witness stand after each witness. So that's going to delay things a little bit. So what was brought up in our meeting yesterday, and I think is a great idea, is that all pretrial motions are going to have to be conducted prior to trial, just because it's going to take us a lot longer during those trial days, I think, to efficiently move a trial through. So any suggestions as we go along, we'll certainly incorporate those, and we'll get a little bit better as we go along. Our dockets, I also think each judge is controlling their own dockets, but I also think that we are getting a little bit back to normal. What's changed for us is our jury trials, and I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. are going to be on Monday and Tuesdays instead of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for all non-DV cases. We'll have our courtroom G2 available to us, and if there happens to be more than one trial going out on a Monday or a Tuesday, we'll have Judge Fairgrieve's courtroom available for use for district court as well. DV isn't changing much. They'll still conduct jury trials in G2 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're not going to be able to conduct more than one jury trial or perhaps two, as mentioned. Like we did in the past, we would find backup judges if we had more than one trial going at the same time. We're just not going to have that capability because of courtroom space and the requirement of social distancing and keeping everybody safe. Let's see, Zoom hearing protocols. I love that Judge Fairgrieve brought that up. I think I brought that up last week, and it is amazing what we see on some of those Zoom hearings and what you guys have been able to witness on those Zoom hearings as well. The no driving is a real concern for the court because I do see people driving, and we ask for the same things that Judge Fairgrieve just went through. And we do appreciate that you guys have really been helping get your clients up and running. It's difficult for me because I'm not used to getting into the hearings like you guys do. So I have a hard time troubleshooting sometimes with the clients that can't unmute themselves or can't seem to connect. And oftentimes an attorney will mute himself and help that client to get them on board and ready for the hearing. So we do extremely appreciate that. A question was sent to me from Mr. McAleer, even though he's vacationing in Mexico apparently, but wanting us to get on the link like Superior Court's doing to make it a little bit easier to get into our Zoom hearings. So we are working on that. We are working with the county IT's program. They were in the process of revamping our entire website, so there'll be a new look to our website really soon when we made this request. And it's my understanding the way it will look is civil and criminal cases, you'll be able to go to your client's name, and next to your name will be the specific link for your hearing. So it'll have the client's name, the time of the hearing, and then a place where you can click on a link just to join that hearing at that time. So we think it will run really smoothly. I'm hoping it'll be up within the next couple of weeks, and we will certainly get that word out to you when we get that up. That will eliminate a lot of work that we're putting in on this end, and perhaps you guys are trying to find which Zoom meeting you need to join at what time, because I know a number of you are in and out of several courts at the same time. I do think this is our new normal, as Judge Fairgrieve mentioned, going forward. I don't know how long we're going to be in this situation, but he's probably correct. That's at least 6 months to a year. So we will also be looking at ways to more efficiently run these dockets. It was just enough to get the platform, get it going, and now we're trying to work out the kinks and get it running a little bit more smoothly. So let's see on my meeting agenda. Oh, and if you don't know already, we've also been all of our hearings are being live streamed now on YouTube. So there is a link on our webpage. If you go to our webpage, and I think where I found it yesterday was on the left-hand side, about halfway down the page. And you can click on the YouTube channel, and you can click into just about any hearing, and you just watch it. If you're a spectator, or you have someone that wants to view a hearing, you can let them know that that's a way for them to be able to view the hearing. If you weren't aware, we did institute a walk-in warrant docket, and that is every Thursday. So if you have a client that has a warrant, we used to do them on arraignments, but as Judge Fairgrieve mentioned, these Zoom hearings are taking a lot more time. We are screening people in court instead of sending them downstairs to get them screened for court-appointed attorney, and that takes some time as well. We put them in a breakout room with our screener in order to conduct that screening. So we were unable to do walk-in warrants every day on our arraignment docket for that reason. So we created a walk-in warrant docket. It's on the civil judge's Thursday docket. We handle 24 in the morning and 24 in the afternoon, but we'll be looking at expanding that perhaps a little bit more, those docket spots. The state's cases are in the morning and the city cases are in the afternoon generally. But a person can get themselves added onto that docket any week, and we'll try to get their warrants taken care of. And then we did pass a policy regarding media exhibits due to COVID-19. So I'm just going to read the policy to you. But when a case participant wishes to present a media file for court's review, which would be a video or a sound file, it must be delivered or mailed to the district court administration in a CD, DVD format prior to the hearing. Per local court rule 14.8.4, it is the responsibility of the party introducing the testimony or evidence to provide the proper equipment for viewing such testimony or evidence. During the virtual Zoom hearing, the presenting party must submit the media file via screen sharing. Once the media has been received by the court on CD, DVD, it must be appropriately marked by the exhibit's clerk and forwarded to the appropriate judicial department. If the court admits the media into evidence, it must be appropriately marked as an exhibit by the judicial assistant. To present the sound video file to the court during a virtual Zoom case hearing, the presenting party must first notify the judicial officer so that Zoom screen sharing can be enabled. Once screen sharing has been permitted, the presenting party will play the media, which will be projected, shared to all of the case participant screens. So that's just kind of an update for us. And with that having been said, I don't think I have too much more to add. I think Judge Fairgrieve did an excellent job of covering a lot of the same issues that district court has been facing. And again, I thank you guys too. It's been a long process. They say there's Zoom fatigue, and I certainly felt it yesterday when I had 41 cases on in the morning. It is a little bit slower process, a little bit tedious, but we're getting through it the best we can. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Osler, and to Judge Fairgrieve for taking the time today to share these updates from our courts. Thank you all for attending. I don't see any questions right now. So you can either send your questions to me or Lisa Darko, or I believe Judge Fairgrieve said you could reach out to him or Donnell. And Judge Osler, I'm sure you'd be willing to entertain some questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. So since there are no questions, I'm just going to wrap it up here. So again, thank you all for attending, and please look out for future content. Don't forget to renew your CCBA membership so you can continue to get these great updates from the court and some additional future content. Thanks so much. Enjoy your Wednesday, everyone.